another person's experience. That's what it felt like. But I was on an absolute mission to find out more about my heritage. And I actually, the process in my writing is really a process of looking back and finding connections when I actually felt like I was disenfranchised. I'm actually empowered now to think, well, I found ways, portals, in the house, whether that's the masks, whether that's the drums, the adinkra, the kente that surrounded me. Fantastic. I knew that prop would come in handy, Emily. So basically, that is what I revisit in a lot of my poetry. It's looking through those childhood experiences, but also I find you've talked about privilege. I mean, how can we carry this spiritual and emotional weight? Not only is it, I guess, obviously traumatic when you're in environments that can be hostile to you, but it's also this immense sense of privilege that you've been able to shapeshift, that you've been able to survive in these different environments and be chameleonic as well. But also, how can I move this experience forward and continue this legacy of shapeshifting that I believe I proudly belong to? It's through sharing my experience, but it's also in that liminal space. It's being able to do two things, I think: formalize what you do, and maybe my latest kind of venture is trying to formalize that into sort of academia. And through being a teacher, I've been able to put my perspectives into the history curriculum or the English curriculum, but now I want to go a little bit further and perhaps question methodologies, question research, and to look at my own privilege, that black and brown privilege, as a way of passing this on through poetry, through academic writing. So it's particularly, I think, the peripheral spaces. You've talked about your son, looking at the fact that rap and Stormzy carries these messages, and that may be, a more recent kind of iteration of that ability. I look at that too, and that I get a lot of inspiration from fashion, music, whatever it is, sculpture, but it's sort of looking at people that are kind of on those margins. They may not necessarily be given the academic kudos, but it's using that and blending that with my own kind of very kind of Western education and paying homage to that, really. So my first poem, which is actually on that theme, comes from an Afrofuturist techno duo called Drexciya, who I came across, and they imagine this world where pregnant women dived off the slave ships of the Middle Passage and basically breathed underwater, founded their own subaqueous empire. So I use that as a huge inspiration to me, and the tool of imagination. And I kind of imagine what might the next step of kind of colonization of the space or air, what might that actually be? So it's more the metaphor of using the connection between the now, but also the possibilities. But I feel I'm rooted in the possibilities because, I've shifted and I've moved places. Why not move that experiment, further on in a kind of sense? So that was my long-winded introduction to NYANKOPOXYICAN, breath of fresh air, I call it, which was a kind of portmanteau of, I put in the idea of nyame. I played with several words there to kind of come up with my own sort of hybrid. So this is it. We can't breathe, cried the diasporic seeds on barren soils, signals sent by those tethered to Africa, Europe, and the Americas. Inhospitable stormy weather, picked up on marine radar radio by deep sea Drexciyan dwellers, riding high under waves of isolation in bubbled metropolis, traveling on aquabarn in cruiser control. We can't breathe, weak breath signals picked up in Africa, Europe, and the Americas, in hospitable, stormy weather. Progeny of those labelled sick and disruptive, thrown off foul-scented slave ships on their middle passages. They swam from their mothers' wombs, learning to breathe, to found subaqueous empires and freshwater trajectories, formed deep sea civilizations beneath a vast, dark abyss created by transatlantic slavery, brave alternative histories. We can't breathe, weak breath signals picked up in Africa, Europe, and the Americas, inhospitable, stormy weathers. Valiantly escaping through aqua wormholes, enslaved removals evolved into wave jumpers, stingray and barracuda battalions, to Positron Island, bubble metropolis, Danger Bay, reaching Drexia in stages. Evolutionary deep black Atlantic Ocean navigation, an aquazone surrounding an isolated archipelago. We can't breathe, weak breath signals picked up in Africa, Europe, and the Americas, inhospitable, stormy weather. The next Drexian quest, communicate to save land-lumbered souls from the prison industrial complex, colonization, decolonization, institutional racism, post-industrialization, macro and micro aggressions, global warming oppression. We can't breathe, weak breath signals picked up in Africa, Europe, and the Americas, inhospitable, stormy weathers. They sent sonic invasions from their underwater techno-pirate stations, helping those struggling to survive, adverse, intense climactic changes, attacking the mainstream of airwaves, allowing oppressed souls to breathe. A rescue mission dreamt up by Drexian REST. Research, experimentation, science, technology, new systems to allow breathing were developed in the tropos, stratos, mesos, thermos, and eventually exospheres, finally flying, releasing estranged cousins from the effects of transatlantic slavery. Breathing, we can't breathe, but we can breathe in deep sea and space, terrestrial seabed to exospheric adaptation. We travel dimensional portals, jumping holes at liminal crossroads. Neo-evolution from Drexian to NYANKOPOXYICAN, extraterrestrial storm weathering, then harnessing. The formation of a single continuous superfield, our hybrid reality mediating all mass, space, time, and energy, the stolen plotting liberation after surviving, abject global conditioning, deep in the ocean, on land and air. We are sole survivors regrouping as we ready for the journey home, future, wherever we choose to go.